Hello, I'm Rob.
And I'm Dave.
And today we're going to be reviewing the horror movie Black Sunday. It's from the Italian horror filmmaker and cinematographer Mario Bava, and it stars horror icon Barbara Steele as a vengeful witch who returns from the grave with her fiendish servant to possess the body of a beautiful look-alike descendant, also played by Barbara Steele, and only two people stand in her way, the girl's brother and a very handsome doctor that happens to be visiting the village that this movie takes place in. And this movie is considered to be a classic in the horror genre. It was originally released in the U.S. in 1961 as Black Sunday. The version we saw is an English dubbed version called The Mask of Satan, and so this is the version that we're going to be reviewing.
Daughter of the House of Vida, this High Court of the Inquisition of Moldavia has declared you guilty. May God have pity on your soul in this your final hour.
It is I who renounce you, and in the name of Satan I place a curse upon you.
I was really impressed with the look of this movie because I've seen a lot of Italian horror movies from different periods, and they all look kind of low budget and cheap looking, but this one looked really good. It looked like a big effort was put into the look of this movie.
This looked more like one of the older ones that was like made in the States more than made like in Italy. The cemetery scenes and all that, they look like those old traditional Catholic cemeteries in Italy and everything. And but yeah, I was impressed with this too.
Yeah,
compared to most movies.
Yeah, the sets were what really got me into it. Like the tomb that the witch is buried in was, it looked very spooky, very, creepy looking. There was a lot of shots. There was huge spider webs, and even the castle that the descendant lives in was really good. It was it felt ancient. It felt old. It felt creepy.
Yeah.
It felt like it was a good looking movie. It didn't look like it was done on the cheap, which I really liked. And because Mario Bava started out as a cinematographer, he devised some very great creepy looking shots. Like for example, there's scenes where characters will look into like water or other liquids like wine, and they'll see images. And this is before the days of CGI.
Yeah.
And again, the great use of shadows. And I really enjoyed this movie a lot. I really got into it right off the bat. And
I did too.
And so this was, for me, not the images is what really helped get me into this movie. It wasn't a cheap-looking movie.
I mean, we got a few laughs out of it too. There was a few corny bits, but other than that, I mean, it was really great.
Yeah, and I mean, they use a lot of horror movies use humor. Like for example, the two doctor characters decide to come to the village, and they do use humor a lot. Like a lot of great humor in there to help kind of break up the tension of it. So I think the performances were really good, but this kind of reminded me of the topic that we did some time ago. We talked about movies that are dubbed versus movies that are subtitled. This movie was dubbed, and I know there's some people that would rather watch the original with the subtitles and English subtitles. And I think for this case, sometimes the words did not match the lips of the actors, because what was done sometimes back in the day is if they used an international cast of English language and German and Italian actors, they would speak in their native tongue, and the film would be shot silent, and then it would be dubbed in later.
I got so into the film though, I couldn't really even tell that the words weren't matching the lips. It seemed like the English in this was just like supposed to be there. That's how well I got into this film. It really didn't even, you really don't even notice it. That's how much fun this movie is.
Well, the thing is, I did notice a few things here and there. Like, for example, there's some scenes where objects fall to the ground and you don't hear them fall to the ground. I mean, so that was one of the things that kind of took me out. I'm like, this is kind of not really realistic.
And there was like one scene where the sound kind of like got like lower, and then it picked up again, and you could tell that was from like an uneven dub. Scene where the doctor is like coming out of the castle or coming out of one of the buildings in town, and then the sound kind of gets like a little bit lower or whatever. There was like a bad dub right there, because he says something, and then it's of course in English, and it was like probably originally in like Italian or whatever language. So.
Yeah, I liked it. I think the movie did give me some scares. I think I would definitely recommend this movie perhaps a little bit more to fans of the older horror movies, because I think a lot of them now feature a lot of, I think audiences for today's horror movies want a sense of realism. This one kind of mixes in, a little bit of, legend and myth involved in it, a tad bit of fantasy. So
Yeah.
I think people who like older movies, like the old Universal films, will probably like it more.
But it's impossible, Father. He moved, he even spoke to me. Then he ran away.
Sometimes Satan, with his capacity for doing evil, even plays tricks with the
I'd rather watch something like this than some of the horror movies from nowadays that are like really stupid and just getting so bloody, and they're just the same over and over again. It's the same stuff. There's not much variety anymore. Yeah. Because I'm sick of slasher films altogether, and for a while I was hooked on zombie films, but those are starting to get really old because they're trying to take like basically any subject you can think of and make it into a zombie film, mostly World War II or recent wars and whatnot, and it's getting really dumb.
You mentioned gore. I think this must have been one of the first movies to use it, because I mean, there's some shots that suggest that violence is being happened, but there's a couple shots in there where you see people getting stabbed and you see a little bit of blood gushing out. I mean, it's kind of tame compared to what we got now. Now a lot of times, a lot of horror movies tend to go overboard on the slashing.
It's got a really good eerie look to it that a lot of those movies at that time had, and you can't replace nowadays with the way color is. I mean, I like these movies when they are in black and white to begin with, because they look a lot eerier, and just the expressions on the actors' faces and whatnot, whether they're dubbed or not.
Yeah, and there's some movies where, like this one, where there's characters hiding in the shadows, and when they pop out, you're like, whoa, it's very hard to pull that off in color. I've seen quite a lot of horror movies that do that, and you're like, wow, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would definitely recommend this, and if people that like modern movies are want to take a look at it, I think it's definitely worth a look. So I would definitely recommend this. I thought it was real fun, and I really got creepy chills from it.
Yeah, anybody that's like me, that's like looking for a little more variety compared to some of the stuff that's been out nowadays, I would definitely recommend this. Give this a try and see if this can be a little more scary.
If there is something that I don't like about this movie besides the occasional bad dub, there's this scene where this guy is getting attacked by a giant bat. You can tell it's on a string.
Yeah, definitely. I even said that.
Yeah.
Or the scenes where there's a scene where like a trap door opens in the floor when he's scuffling with the one dead guy, and you can tell that he's like that he's being like guided towards it, that it wasn't like that he didn't like fall on his own behalf and everything.
Yeah, and another thing I didn't like, this is one of the reasons why sometimes if you dub movies it doesn't work. There's a scene where two characters are fighting, one of the dead and one of the doctors is fighting, and it looks good on screen, but the fighting is just so lame. It's like, it just sounds like it was done in the studio. It's just like they're just saying, they're not going, you know what I mean? It's just like, what the? Okay, so that's our opinion on Black Sunday or The Mask of Satan. If you have seen this movie and you want to leave any comments about it, go ahead and post them, or if you got any feedback for the video, post that as well, and thank you for watching.